number of you here for the first time, so we're so glad to have you. We'll be talking, or Eileen tonight, we'll be talking for nearly an hour, and then we'll open it up, and we hope we can have a conversation and we can see you then, because we can't see you now. We are about to board a ship for a Christmas cruise down the Danube. This is a trip that Eileen and Marshall took. Dave and I have not done this. And so we've been looking forward to experiencing the cruise that Eileen and Marshall took tonight. I want to thank, right before we start, our sponsor, Anup Mitra with Cruise Planners, American Express Travel. You got to see him last month when we went to India. And Anup's daughter just got married, beautiful daughter. So he's pretty excited about that. I just want to get started. Eileen, if you're ready, let's take off.
All right, thank you very much, Pat. So I'm not sure if you all are seeing me on screen at this point. Should I hit share screen, Steve?
Yeah, hit share screen.
That didn't work.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Awesome.
All right. So we are going to be traveling along the Danube today. And I thought that we should begin by talking a little bit about the river itself. You know, Wagner has the Rhine Maidens, but Strauss has the Danube. And there are lots of legends that sit in these hills around this water. Earth spirits, wisps and mermaids, black dogs, ghosts, gnomes and giants. It's filled with Bavarian castles and mad kings. It is a treasure trove of legends. So this is the river that we're going to traverse tonight. We were signed up for our first Viking cruise. And hold on. Okay, my screen is not moving.
Let's see. Try using the down arrow on your keyboard.
Okay. No.
Or the sideways arrow.
And when you click on the slide, it doesn't do anything.
There we go. Okay, we're in. So this is a Viking ship at a different season, obviously, but I did want to just tell you about how the ship is built. It comes in 2 levels and then a rooftop. The bottom level is basically the entry level and then staterooms. Some of them come with balconies and French verandas. Our public life was on the top level, and that is included. Well, there's a beautiful, elegant restaurant. It's a very long look, and the dining room has panoramic views. And next to it is the lounge and bar, which have glass wall-to-ceiling views, cushy sofas, friendly people. And then you can see that at the end of the boat, there is a porch. Right inside is what is called the Akavit Terrace, and you can do informal dining there. The ship comes with a little bit of a library and an even smaller shop. It's basically selling Viking sweaters, I think. There's supposed to be an organic roof garden. We did not explore that option, given that it was December. The ship itself offered culinary programs in the late afternoon. We had a wine and cheese tasting with German wines one day. We had a Hungarian tea with jam-filled crepes and strudels covered in chocolate sauce and all good things. So each day there was a different theme. And then after dinner, there were entertainments. So the first night aboard, we had singers from the Hungarian State Opera perform for us. There was a wonderful pianist on board who would knockout tunes. And as the evening went on and the bar had been visited, karaoke came into play, and lots of us got up and tried to do something. So that was fun. So they really made a point of trying to engage the passengers in a lot of fun when we were on board. So I'm going to backtrack for a moment now and just tell you about the way we got to Budapest, which was our first stop. We had left Dulles Airport. We were flown to Amsterdam, where we were supposed to make our connecting flight into Budapest. And the immigration line there, well, it wasn't a line, it was a mob. So it took us a protracted amount of time to get through, and we actually had to really hustle over to our connecting plane, which we were lucky enough to get on board, and we thought that our troubles were over, but they were not. And I was trying to decide whether to share this with you, but you know, we're here in a funny 2020 Christmas mode. And I thought maybe you would chuckle at some of the vicissitudes we shared on this 2017 trip, because when we landed in Budapest, our luggage had not followed us. And about 30 people, including the entire plane crew, didn't have luggage. So it took us a while to fill out paper forms, et-cetera. And everybody else was on the bus waiting for us. And we were late getting to the ship as a result. And so that was not our most popular moment with the passengers. So let's see, I'm gonna take us now to, oops, let me go back. I wanna show you where we're going. We're starting in Budapest, and we're going to sail over towards Austria. We did that by night, and when we woke up, we were in Vienna. We will be traveling from there on to Krems and Melk, two smallish towns. We go into Passau, which we'll spend some time at. We're off the map for the rest of it, but continuing to head west. We will stop in Regensburg and then Nuremberg. And on my particular trip, we did an overland extension into Prague. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. All right, so we arrived at the ship. And like all good ships do in frosty weather, the stewards met us with hot drinks and cookies. We didn't have any luggage to worry about, so we threw our coats back on and went out into the streets of Budapest. Very close by, there was a Christmas market, which is the reason that we had come on the trip. So we were delighted. And it was a smallish affair, but I just thought it was one of my favorites, actually. It had a real homegrown touch to it. The vendors were very cheery, and there was a smell of roasting chestnuts in the air. And there was a beautiful pedestrian street that came off of that spot, and we walked for a couple of blocks down it. At the very end, which would have been several blocks away, was the big Budapest Christmas market. But we were tired, and so we decided that we would visit that the next day. Unfortunately, we didn't realize that the ship had other plans. We had a scheduled bus tour in the morning, after which the ship sailed directly on. And so we were not able to see all of our sights. This is the Budapest Christmas market that I spoke of. That's a night scene, and you can see how large it is and brilliant, which is a mark of most of the Christmas markets that we're going to visit there. They're illuminated and gorgeous. I thought I'd just show you some of the things that we didn't get to see. I was so looking forward to seeing the Budapest Gellert Spa, which was in a movie. I can't recall the name of the movie, but I do remember that it was a beautiful spa. But on our bus tour, we traveled into Pest. I should tell you that Budapest is a city in two sections, divided by a river. There's modern Pest, which is where our bus was taking us now. The architecture along the streets was wonderful. There is a plaza. This is a monument to, it's a plaza with monuments honoring fallen heroes of the Magyar state. We were driving down this elegant Andrassy Avenue with these mansions that had belonged to the Hungarian aristocrats from the Habsburg times, that had been taken over by the communists in post-World War II and turned into communist offices. We rounded a corner and came across a beautiful, beautiful coffee house. This is the Budapest Gerbaud Coffee House. It is acclaimed as one of the finest coffee houses in all Europe. We saw people at the Christmas market wanting to move over and get some hot coffee. We were waiting to have our coffee a little bit later. So we were back on the bus and it headed across the Elizabeth Bridge towards Old Buda. Well, let me just stop and tell you a little bit about why the bridge is called Elizabeth. It's named after a 19th century Habsburg empress. She had been born a Bavarian princess and had a very wonderful, unrestrained childhood. So when she came to Vienna's court, she was very uncomfortable. She didn't like the strict court life that ruled everybody's existence there. And she's sort of a tragic figure, actually. She would be assassinated when she was 60 years old by an Italian terrorist. That was just before the turn of the century. But she had only one child, Rudolf. And you may recall in European history that Rudolf, who was the crown prince of the entire Habsburg Empire, was not allowed to marry the lady he loved. So he and she went off to the woods and in Meyerling and had a murder-suicide pact. And so she lost her son as well. Elizabeth didn't stay at court very long. She took to traveling extensively. But when she was in town, she liked to go up to Old Buda. It's a little bit of a mountaintop where there's a castle and shops and such. And there's a bakery there. Her nickname was Sisi, by the way. And Sisi would hang out for hours holding court in this bakery. So we decided to do the same. It was a cold day. We didn't have much time, but we managed to get in and get our hot coffee and a strudel. And it was beautiful, similar to what you're seeing with the Gerbauer Coffee House. All right, so from there, we were going to be traveling on to Vienna. And this is a beautiful scene, a night scene from the Christkindlmarkt there. Let me just tell you a little bit about what's going on here. I want you to consider for a moment that Germanic lands top the list for their grandiose attention to Christmas, right? And then consider this. The most famous capital across all of those lands was Austria. So if you find your finger, you point it to Vienna, which is the core of all that is happening across a large swath of Europe. And put those two things together, Christmas and grandiose Vienna. Situate yourself in the area where the Habsburg Palace is, and you will come across the largest Christmas market in Vienna, which is a picture here. It is called the Viennese Dream Christmas Market, and it has a backdrop that is the finest anywhere in Europe because of that grandiose Habsburg City Hall sitting behind it. We went on a walking tour in the morning, and our guide was telling us a story about how it came to be. There was a medieval king named Albrecht, and he gave the town permission to hold a farmer's market in December. And from that, the entire tradition of Christkindlmarkts began. Okay, The market, by the way, has an underground section where it's dedicated to children, and they can learn how to make Christmas cookies and candles there. And on the weekends, international choirs show up and perform. The market itself, like many of the markets that we're going to meet, is full of hand-carved toys and ornaments from Christmases past that celebrate tradition. Austrians love their traditions. So the biting cold then drove us to a bakery where we practiced ordering coffee with creamy tops called Kaffee mit Schlag. So an interesting little point, we returned to our bus at the appointed time. And the planned route for our bus tour was greatly impeded and shortened by the fact that the new Austrian right-wing president was being sworn in that morning, and there were protests all over the place. The good news was that Marshall's suitcase was waiting for him when we reboarded. The bad news was that mine was not. So there is the Vienna City Hall again with the beautiful tree. Isn't that stunning? That's just amazing. So beautiful. And there is the Vienna market by night. So we're going on to Krems. This is the city of Krems. At one time, it was the size of Vienna. It sits about 43 miles west of that city. Today, it has a population probably equal to that of Herndon. And it bears evidence of having been a very ancient settlement. In fact, they found a child's grave there that dated back to 27,000 years ago. It sits at the eastern end of a beautiful valley called the Wachau Valley. And the highlighted tour for us that day was the Goethweg Abbey, a working monastery for over 900 years. This is Goethweg. The abbey is renowned for its library. It has over 150,000 books and manuscripts. It has an amazing collection of coins, natural history items, antiquities, engravings. And the value of the collections has been increased because, unlike most of the German Austrian area, the abbey was almost untouched during the World War. The Benedictine monasteries, our monks are here in the monastery, and they enjoy this beautiful view of terraced vineyards, forested slopes, and charming towns in the valley that is below them. And they also have a beautiful staircase. It's a 3-story staircase, an imperial one, built for Maria Theresa on a hoped-for visit by her, but she only showed up once. But the staircase was built for her because the steps are broad and short to accommodate the Empress's dress. I thought that was cute. We went to nearby Melk after Goethweg and saw a beautiful, beautiful church there. Here is its interior, just lush and ornate, very Baroque. So in the afternoon, we had signed up for an optional Bavarian beer fest. And it actually turned out to be one of my favorite things on the whole trip. They drove us through rolling green hills of Bavarian countryside to a place called Gut Eikat, which was a sprawling 200-acre riverside farm. The property is now in its 16th generation, owned by a single family. And one of the daughters became our tour guide, showing us various parts of the grounds. And she pointed out that the farm is largely self-sufficient. They even have their own sawmill on the property. Now, our guide's father, who had studied industrial design, like my daughter, added a magnificent horse rink and upgraded a couple of hunting lodges that now hosted events like the ones we were going to attend. Today's event came with, I'm missing, okay, I'll just tell you about it. It came with platters of hams and cheeses, pretzels, a large keg of locally brewed beer, and lots of fun. There were these two Bavarian lederhosen musicians playing Oompa bands, and the owner, still a relatively young man who exuded personality, he was welcoming us with a Schulplatz and inviting us to join the dance. Some of us did. To these pleasantries were added a roaring fire and lots of good company. It was a moment of great contentment. So we went to Passau, and Passau, here we go. This is their Christmas market by night. At this point, I still didn't have my luggage, which meant that I didn't even have shampoo and hairbrushes, except those loaned to me. So I went off to get my hair done, which meant that I didn't get to do the morning tour that everybody else did. And it was a hapless idea because it was raining and I had to walk through the rain afterwards. But when I got to the Christmas market, which is next to the cathedral, I got to explore its stalls, and I actually didn't think too much of it. It was a sort of a modest affair. I really preferred what we got to do in the church, the cathedral. They had warm pews, and they had a recital on one of Europe's largest organs. So that was really special because I do love music. All right. The next day, oh, there's good. Okay, that's where we had our Bavarian fun. The next, and the party fair. We're going into Regensburg, and this was just a lovely town. I loved Regensburg. You can see how pretty it is. It's not too big, not too small. It's very Bavarian in its architecture, and it's brimming with history. There was another Stone Age settlement there. And later the Romans came, and there was a wall that was erected by Marcus Aurelius. What really caught my attention, though, was this piece of history. In 845 CE, 14 Bohemian princes came to Regensburg, which was then the capital of Bavaria, and they asked to be baptized. So this was the starting point of Christianization of the Czechs, and the Diocese of Regensburg became the mother diocese of that of Prague. So why is that important? Well, because it placed their cultural history in a Roman Catholic instead of a Slavic Orthodox world. That in turn, this is my speculation, probably accounted for Czechoslovakia being spared Nazi carnage 1,000 years later. So Regensburg is the largest medieval town north of the Alps. Still operating is its old Wurstküche, the old sausage kitchen, Germany's oldest restaurant. We had to pop inside for a quick look, and not surprisingly, it was a small, dimly lit interior with low ceilings and no bathrooms. We did have a fabulous guide named Hubert. He was a character. He told lots of stories, and he would accent them by pulling out pictures from his pouch. One of his stories, he told us Hitler was an honorary citizen of Regensburg because every town was forced to make him one. Hitler only came to the town once, and shortly after making a speech, a large chunk of ceiling fell on the spot where he had stood. One infers that the town's inhabitants didn't like him. Another story. Regensburg had a hall to which the emperor called a congress in 1663. The legislators didn't finish that year, or the next, or the next. In fact, they didn't finish until 1850, and the gathering became known as the Perpetual Diet of Regensburg. The town, by the way, now lays claim to Regensburg being the home of the first United Nations. Hubert had another story. This one involved Pope Innocent. The Pope had decided that cats went with witches and that both should be exterminated. In his pogrom, he allowed the spread of the plague since there were not cats enough to kill the rats. But today, Regensburg is proud of its post-war efforts and its site of the largest displaced persons in Germany. So what to do in Regensburg? Well, we decided to have lunch in an atmospheric old restaurant. There were plenty of them around. After which we walked back to the ship, and only to find the ship had sailed. Panic struck. We couldn't recall where the rendezvous site was, so we went back to the Christmas market, which is a huge one, filled with angelic sounds of strolling carolers. But I could only half concentrate on the atmosphere because I was roaming the stalls trying to find one of our fellow travelers. And luckily I did. I found this couple from California. So we spent the afternoon with them, relaxing with what was now a habit, Kaffee mit Schlag. Back on board, the crew had suggested that we set our clocks for an early awakening if we wanted to see the ships pass through one of the Danube locks. There are lots of locks on this river. And the information they gave was interesting. Again, a piece of history. Back in the Middle Ages, Charlemagne had dreamed of waterways that connected Europe from the North Sea to the Black Sea. All that was needed in theory was a trench about 10,000 feet long that would connect the Rhine and the Danube rivers. Well, medieval technology was not up to the challenge. And in fact, neither were Napoleon's engineers a millennium later. But wouldn't you know, in the mid-1800s, Mad King Ludwig I of Bavaria managed the feat, creating a series of 101 locks that operated. They operated until damaged in World War II. So the current Rhine-Main-Danube Canal was conceived as a water conservation project as much as a transportation mode, and it opened in 1992. It runs 106 miles and has an elevation of 574 feet. The use of the locks is carefully scheduled. This particular, and I should tell you that the lock's widest part is only 11 feet 4 inches in width. So they build these ships to 11 feet 2 inches. So we got to watch the passage through the lock with only an inch separating us from the wall. It was very interesting. An hour later, we were docking in Nuremberg, a city we had visited briefly some 40 years ago. Nuremberg is the second largest city in Bavaria. It's full of these half-timbered houses and Gothic churches like you see in pictures. It was nearly destroyed during World War II because because it had a Zeppelin field factory, and the Nazi rallies were taking place there. And later we know it as the site of the war crimes trials. But the residents today are quick to counter that the town was also the center of the German Renaissance and produced the artist Albrecht Dürer and the composer Johann Pachelbel. Among the city's treasures is the world's oldest globe, dating back to, guess when, 1492, and it has a 500-year-old Madonna. Another treasure for Nuremberg is its Christkindlmarkt. It is the largest in Germany. It's located on one of the town's several pedestrian zones, a huge stage set at one end, overlooking these rows and rows of stalls and exuberant crowds. We thought it was time to go shopping, so we got our extra bags out and we wandered along, stopping to examine handcrafted wooden toys, nutcrackers, and smokers. I bought a matching hat and mittens and some toys for the grandkids. A Nuremberg specialty are the prune people. Yes, I said prune people. These are colorful little figures mimicking musicians, soccer players, farmers, choristers, whatever. They're constructed with prunes, raisins, nuts, and plums, and everybody loves them. The tradition dates back to the 17th century when the locals believed that if they kept the little prune people on their windowsills, no harm would come to them. Studying the prunes, I remembered that I had my own food list to check off. A 3-pack sandwich loaded with those tiny and delicious Nuremberg sausages, washed down with a hot spiced Glühwein, followed by Lebkuchen in this world capital of gingerbread. It was quite the fun lunch. There's the Regensburg market. Sorry, I've been talking and not moving pictures. That is the Nuremberg, the biggest Christkindl market in Germany. Isn't that fabulous? And there are some toys. And there are the prune people. I think they're cute. All right, so we were up early the next morning. The cruise had ended and we were busing over to Prague, about a 3-hour drive away. And another little story of my troubles. We had stopped at this little mart for a bathroom stop and grab a snack on the route. And I left my purse on the bus, thinking that I would be free to handle coffee and such. I did carry my passport with me though, and used the bathroom stall. Well, I put the passport on the toilet holder and forgot to pick it up when I left the stall. So I'm back on the bus is heading out the gate, and I suddenly remember the passport. And I screamed, of course, wouldn't you? And asked the driver if he could turn the bus around because we had to go get the passport, which he did. I was just happy that I hadn't waited until we got to Prague to have that thought. So anyway, in Prague, we went to it's a beautiful city. Prague is deserving of all of the praise everybody gives it. It was not bombed during World War II, so everything is still in place. And its architecture runs from medieval to modern. The latter, the modern, is outrageously represented by this building. It's a grotesque Frank Gehry building called Fred and Ginger. Look at this. This is supposed to be 2 dancers. But everything else was beautiful. So we were staying at a park like Charles Square area. And on our first day, we took a long walk over to the Old Town Square, where yet another wonderful, beautiful Christmas market was taking place. In the afternoon, we bought a hop-on, hop-off ticket and toured the city that way. The next day, we hired the hotel's car for a trip to the castle grounds. And this is the Prague market. And this is the St. Vitus Cathedral, the castle grounds. The European medieval crowd liked to put their castle and their cathedral up on hills away from the riffraff, I guess. But you'll notice that there's a very large plaza here, and you'll see buildings on either side. There was castle apartments. There's a monastery in there. The large Christmas tree is on the other side of the cathedral. I really liked this area. It was one of my 2 favorite spots in Prague. The other was the Charles Bridge, a very famous bridge. It's an elegant place to be. It's full of statues, lots of crowds, and it's in a neighborhood rimmed with beautiful little shops. Here is its picture. Isn't that a stunner? So on Christmas Eve, we walked several blocks in the freezing cold under a spread of stars to attend Christmas Eve service. A nun sat beside me and helped me find my way around the Czech hymnal. It was a beautiful service, simple and soft amid candlelight. Only about 20% of Czechs are Catholic today, but the populace still turns out for Christmas Eve. on our final day, we took a World War World War II tour, but my back went into spasm, and so we had to ask the driver to take us back to the hotel. We had tickets to see Don Giovanni in the very famous Prague Opera House that evening, and I tried to regroup in time for the performance, but it wasn't to be. So we spent Christmas night tucked into bed with room service, a sad ending to a trip that had presented several challenges, but nothing like what we're going through this Christmas. A funny postscript on KLM was the airline that lost our luggage. And coming back through US immigration, the agent became confused and asked me to repeat where I had come from. KLM didn't have me on their manifest. So that was my particular trials and joys of a Danube trip across the Christkind marks of several countries, Austria, Hungary, and Germany, and then into the Czech Republic. So that concludes my formal presentation. I would love to hear stories from any of you who have had the opportunity to take the trip across the Danube, or maybe took a Viking ship and would like to tell us how you liked that. It's Christmas talk, and I want to, can we put me back in, if I stop sharing, there we go, okay. I thought we should start with something interactive. So on the count of 3, I want you all to join me in saying Fröhliche Weihnachten. 1, 1, 2, 3. Fröhliche Weihnachten. Merry Christmas.
All right, so that's really good, because what we can do is practice that for when everybody's in the same room. So everybody practice that. But it looks like Carolyn Bruna has her hand raised. I hope that wasn't by accident. Carolyn, if you want to unmute. And if not, Judy Levy has her hand raised. So I'll just.
Yeah, I'm on.
Hey, Carolyn.
I was
Is
going to.
Carolyn there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I was going to ask, you said only, was it 10% of the people in Prague are Catholic now?
20%.
20%. And what was the other religion that they would have been
They're
before?
mostly atheists. Remember, they were under communist rule for
yeah.
50 some years, and
Right.
during that time, religion went away.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And then Judy, you had a question?
Yes, I did. It sounds like it was very cold the year you were there.
Germany in December is always cold.
Not the year Dan and I were going to go. We
Oh,
we persuaded our travel club to arrange a trip, so they did over a year ahead of time, and so they did. However, and we were supposed to be the first ones to sign up because we had asked for it, and it was one of the few trips we hadn't taken. And then it turned out that in the end, I said, why should we really go there in the freezing cold winter when we've been there and we go, in the spring and the fall? So I think it'll be better, and I don't care that much about Christmas markets. So, I saw all the little toys and things in the spring, the fall, the prune people and all those things. However, well, the year that those people went, and it was really, they lucked out, and it was very, very warm. It might have been 18, I'm not sure, 16 if you went in 17. I don't remember now, but it wasn't that long ago, or maybe it was. But I wanted to say, when I was in Budapest, I've been to Prague several times, and I've been to Budapest, not the other ones, the little stops. But what I do remember about the little stops were Nuremberg, Rothenburg, those that you say much better than me, is that in the summer we kept eating sausages. And they always had them in the farmer's
so good,
market or
are
the
they?
sausage house. And I remembered that I liked the rolls in one place, the mustard in another town, and the sausages, some were thick, some were thin in
Yeah.
another place. But
Yeah.
I did
you,
get to
Judy.
the Geller spot, and it was a nice experience in Budapest.
Lucky
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I'd like to go back and see Budapest.
it takes a long time to see everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, do you
Thanks,
think we
Judy.
could open up and let everyone?
Oh, well, here, let's see. We got Karen. Let me do Karen. She's got her hand raised, and then we can bring everybody over.
Okay, great.
Karen, did you have a question? Karen, if you want to unmute, and let's see. All right, well, why don't we can all have a discussion about this. So I'll bring everybody over to the,
Well, good. While you're doing that, I want to take a moment again to thank Anoop Mitra of Cruise Planners and American Express Travel, and for his continuing support of our travel parties. And welcome to
And
new people.
as I'm bringing everybody over to the stage,
Okay.
you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you like. It's just voluntary, but I'm bringing all you guys over.
I really enjoyed that, Eileen. It was great. I'm hungry for gingerbread and sausage. that
Me
you
too. Me too.
It was very nice to relive. You know, I did the same cruise 3 years ago on Viking also, from Budapest to Nuremberg.
Are you on my cruise, Anoop?
I went in May, so it was actually very good weather. It was 1 or 2 days. It was raining a little bit, but you know, it was not that cold. Of course, Christmas markets you can only do during between Thanksgiving and Christmas, just for 1 month. But May was a good time to go. But you know, I don't know you know this, but the most popular month now for Danube and Rhine has become September. For some reason, a lot of people want to go in September because the schools are open. So, you know, a lot of people in our age group, they want to go when the kids are not there.
Right.
So August, September is becoming really popular. And in the last few years, Danube has had some water issues, you know, some water level going down, water level going up.
Yeah.
And that usually happens in summertime, you know. So June, July, sometimes you can get very good deals, but there is a risk of water level being an issue. So, but one thing I just want to quickly share is one thing I remember. I don't remember the name of the abbey we went to. It was up on a hill, but they had apricot wine. They had everything to do with apricots there. Apricot jam, apricot jelly, apricot wine.
Milk.
And I loved that tour. You know, that was very good.
I think that's
highlight.
milk.
It was milk.
Milk, milk, yes.
I just wanted to say my husband and I were there. Actually, we were at Prague first because he was at a meeting. What was the meeting?
The International Astronomical Union.
International Astronomical Union. He's an astronomer. And so we took a weekend or a couple of days, a few extra days to go over to Vienna. And of course, my favorite thing was the Sakra torte. So, which you can probably say better, but I was in love with it so much so that we ate them as much as we could. And then when we came home, my husband's sister went the same place. So I finagled her into sending me one. And she said it was just so expensive, she'll never do it again. It was delicious.
Yeah.
I remember being many years ago. I did not have my hand raised, by the way. I'm not quite sure what happened there. So I apologize for that. But I did want to say many years ago, my husband and I took a tour and visited a friend of ours who still lives north of Frankfurt in Kronberg. We took a driving tour from there down through the south of Germany to Salzburg and over to Vienna. And I think, but we went in May. And the flowers were absolutely stunning. I mean, flowers everywhere. It was beautiful. I just loved see, that was what one of the things I really most remember, that and the great coffee and the pastries and the sweets and all of those good things that I always often thought at that time that they had better stuff than we did. So anyway, I did do a tour, but it was not the Danube, it was the Rhine, and it was a day tour. I remember that very well. Very nice. I don't think we stopped very many places though, because it was just for a day.
Oh.
But anyway, it was lovely.
Oh, I was just going to add, my grandmother was born in Vienna. Remember that? And then she grew up in Prague. So, it's exciting. I always thought that was exciting.
Okay, so I'm the Karen that had the hand raised.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, I was
That's all
confused
right.
there for a minute. I couldn't
Yeah.
find a way to unmute myself for a while either, to say
Me
it wasn't
neither.
me.
Okay, we have been on 6 and we're supposed to have been on a 7th Viking cruise this past May. End of April, we were supposed to go for the tulips and the windmills, etc. And that ended up not happening, etc. So Viking was very generous about that. They not only offered everybody their money back, but if you just wanted to keep it as a credit, we actually have 25% extra to use on our next cruise. So not sure when we're going to schedule that, and we'd still like to see the same place. But we have been on the Baltic cruise. We have been on, the last one that we went on was from England all the way to the very top of Norway. That was spectacular. We ended up not getting to go to the Shetlands because the ship broke down, and it was the newest of the ships we've been on, but they had a hard time getting parts for it. So we spent a few extra days in England. And they also refunded money, about 25% of our tour for that. We're really right now traveling on bonuses from them. Besides, if you go on more than one, then you get a cheaper fare on the next one, etc. But we have been on the Danube, the Elbe, the Rhine. I'm trying to think what else. Well, I guess the Baltic.
One in Russia, the Volga.
Yeah. And every one of them has been really nice. The sort of slightly surprising and disappointing one was the one on the Elba, which was the second one that we took. It still was a very nice cruise, but it was a very different type of ship. Older, smaller. When you walked into the room, there was just sort of room enough for the two of us to stand in the middle. And there was a twin bed to one side and a twin bed, really more of a fold down thing to the other side. And Phil and I said, oh no, you must have us in the wrong room. There are two of us. And these bedrooms were so small that literally Phil could lay in his bed and I could lay in my bed and we could reach each other's hands, which, and the bathroom wasn't much bigger than that. You know, you could take a shower and brush your teeth and use the toilet all at the same time because it was so small. But the cruise itself was lovely. The side cruises are always very well done and the food is amazing. We highly recommend them.
Eileen?
What happened here?
I don't know. Yeah, we lost some people.
I know. I'm staring at a message that says I need permission.
Yeah.
Somebody is sharing their screen here. I'm gonna.
I can see me, but you can't see me apparently.
Okay, and now I'm gonna stop share. There we go.
Oh, now we go.
Okay. Am I back?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we're back. Eileen, did you ever get your luggage?
Where do I do
It came on the 5th day of a 7-day cruise. Can you imagine?
Great.
I was very good friends with the staff at that point, borrowing what I could. In fact, the passengers were beginning to call me the lady in black. So, It was nice to have a change of clothes.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Who arranged your travel? Did you arrange it yourself or did Viking do it?
I think Anoop did it. Didn't you, Anoop?
No, not the Viking cruise. I did not do that. Yeah, I did your celebrity European cruise.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, but not the Viking trip. No.
I might have just booked it myself. I'm not sure.
Mm.
I thought it was you.
Eileen,
Yes.
it's Mary.
Mary, hi.
And I had several things to say. First of all, as Pat knows, Pat and I both went to DePaul University, and we were both in sororities there. And one of my sorority sisters met us in Prague. She lives there half time. Gloria Cushman, if you ever knew her. In any case, she told us to be ready at our hotel, and we were on a Vantage cruise, by the way, from Budapest to Prague. And she asked us to meet us at our hotel at 7 o'clock in the morning, and she was going to take us on a tour of the city that most people wouldn't see. Okay. That was one cool thing. And she did take us on the tour, which I want to tell you about two of the things we saw. But the other thing is that my great grandfather in 1930 was in Prague, and I have his notebooks of the things that he saw, and we somewhat redid his trip, which was very, very special. For at least for me, because I'm sort of a genealogist. Anyway, how many of you have been to Prague? Raise your hand.
Wish I had been.
Okay, well, it was, and as Eileen said, it's one of my favorite cities. But there is a river called the Vltava in Prague, if you remember, and there is a bridge across it called the St. Charles Bridge. And I'm going to read you a little bit about what my grandfather told us about this, my great grandfather in his books. It's a pedestrian bridge commissioned by Charles IV in 1357 from the old town side of Prague. We enter the bridge through the Gothic Old Town Tower, one of the best towers of its kind, and a part of the city's original fortifications. According to my great-grandfather, the heads, now this is somewhat of a gory story, but I know you won't mind it. The heads of the 21 leaders of a 1621 revolt against the emperor hung on this tower for 10 years. Although the bridge now has replicas of 30 Baroque statues, and they're really neat. For 200 years, the only statue was the Calvary, or wooden crucifix with the gilded Christ. And my great-grandfather noted that this one was paid for by a Jewish man as punishment for reviling the cross.
Wow.
Which was interesting. And then there was another statue called John of Nepomuk, who was a priest in Prague under King Wenceslas, who was the son of Charles IV. And the priest received the confessions of the queen. Unfortunately for John, the king was a very suspicious man who wanted to know the queen's confessions, which Nepomuk would not reveal, not even to the king, because of his confidentiality commitment. Nepomuk was therefore executed by being thrown into the Vltava River from the bridge and drowned. At the base of the statue, a bronze relief shows a soldier petting a dog in a dungeon. In the background, the queen is speaking to a priest in a confession booth. Legend says that if you touch the dog or the priest and wish for a secret to be kept, your wish will be granted.
And that dog is highly polished.
Great story, Mary. Thank you. Wonderful. I'm seeing names of people that I haven't seen in a long time. Beth Regal, hello from Eileen. Where are you?
Hi, how are you? We've been to,
Is Parker there?
hi,
Yeah,
yeah,
Parker's
we're,
there.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Most of us have been
Hello to
to
both
Budapest and to,
Vienna.
Vienna, and
There
we
you
go- we go on a Rhine cruise. I
A
mean,
Danube cruise
Danube cruise.
in the fall,
Yeah.
in the fall. It'll be with Crystal though, and not Viking.
Great.
We're really looking forward to it. This was great. Give us,
Just an introduction. I mean, we've seen some of this. We've been to Milk, but, and Vienna, and like I say, Budapest, but, we're looking forward to the rest of it. It should be
Fabulous.
stunning.
yeah, what we've seen before is Budapest is amazingly beautiful.
It is, isn't it?
People don't appreciate
Yeah.
how beautiful.
Crystal is super luxury. You will love Crystal. It's white glove service and butlers and everything.
Yeah, we've been on a Crystal Ocean cruise, around the British Isles, but, this was a sail that our travel agent told us about last spring. So,
Yes.
so we'll see and we added the Prague extension and we'll go to Munich. So, but we did this because our Danube cruise with Viking that included the Ober Ammergau Passion Play was canceled this year.
Yeah,
So,
we were already.
Here.
yeah,
2022.
Yeah.
yeah, sad not seeing the Passion Play. So,
Oberammergau is back
They're
in
doing it
2022.
again. They're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it 2022 now.
2022, right?
They're doing it in 2022. Okay.
Yeah, they are.
It's definitely, if you want to go on a Danube cruise, please just do it because you will be not regret it at all.
yeah, we took a short Danube cruise when we were in Vienna, just an afternoon up to Milk, but it's very beautiful. And it was in late September, early October. So we're really looking forward to it.
Well, I hope you get to do it. It's really fun.
Could I
Are you
comment?
spending several days in Prague on your own?
Yes, we have a private tour set up with Key Tours in Fairfax. Our travel agent's actually in Richmond, but he worked with Key Tours, so we'll have several days over there in Prague. We'll go there first because we're going to be going the other direction. I mean, we'll start from Munich and Passau and then go to Budapest. So we're going.
We just landed there, changed planes.
Yeah, we started in Prague, one of our tours, and actually had 3 days there on our own, and
Yeah,
then one
right.
day with Viking. And it's one of those, the pre-tours when they're like that, and there's nothing really planned for you. You just sort of have to roam around and find on your own.
Yeah.
And
Well, we've already set up what we want to do there, and then we're going to go to, what is it, Kunta Hora, which has the bone church
Huh?
that's in Czechoslovakia, and that is a day trip over from Prague. But,
Right.
yeah,
we were able to get tickets for one of the concerts.
oh, that'd be great.
Fabulous.
We're hoping we'll get one up at the up at the castle complex up there.
Right. And we ate a place called the Renaissance. It was excellent. Just-
I'm looking forward. I did a lot of conferences in Europe and back in the day, and the one conference I couldn't go to was the one in Prague, and I always wanted to do it, you know. And I think you hear so much about it.
It is
And
beautiful.
it's such a
Very
beautiful
beautiful.
city.
The thing is, it's
How do I
different
raise
than
my
a lot
hand?
of the other cities because it's sort of
How do I raise my hand?
open for tourism
Yeah.
at daytime and night. At 11
yeah.
o'clock at night, everybody's out there walking around and it's lovely and there's all these lights and
We've got a dinner cruise. That's one of the items I asked for on the tour, is to do the night dinner cruise tour. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that
well,
should
you can
be-
just walk around everywhere
Yeah.
and feel safe.
Yeah.
make it feel safe.
Yeah, I was going to say that people have said how they love Budapest, and one of the things they love about it is that they feel so safe.
Oh, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. You don't feel it all. No.
I just saw
it's a-
Sheila. Is that Sheila? It is Sheila.
That's Sheila. Yes.
How are you?
Hi. Pat, do you speak German? Sprichst du Deutsch?
Who?
We,
You.
Me?
Eileen, I mean, Eileen.
Oh,
Eileen,
I speak it badly.
we both
Oh,
studied,
we'll have to
we both
practice
studied
together.
some, yeah.
You know how
We
badly-
lived in
you just story about how
Bavaria for
badly I
5
speak
years.
German. I didn't speak a word of it when I went over to Salzburg, where I was going to study for the summer at the Motorteum. And so I was cramming vocabulary into my head on this long train ride down from the middle of Germany. And the next morning I went to register for school. And having done the first round, I wanted to find the library. And so I went up to somebody and I said, "Entschuldigen Sie mir, wo ist die Freiheit?" And they looked at me like, huh? And so I said it to somebody else, and again I got this crazy look. And I was a teenager with long hair and sandals at the time, you can imagine. So what they were thinking, I thought, I wonder if I should use the French word, "Wo ist die Bibliothèque?" Oh yeah. And they showed. So I said, well, what was I talking about? So I looked up Freiheit, and Liberty and Library had crossed in my head.
Yep. Where is my freedom? I lived in Bavaria for 5 years.
Oh, you did?
And I majored in college in German. So
Oh,
I'm listening to Pat and the words and the pronunciation, and that's interesting. But what made me raise my hand was we were supposed to go to Oberammergau. I've waited years and years because having lived there, I really, really wanted to go. But back when we lived there, I won't tell you how many years ago, it was just the small town, and it was still just the village people that did the Passion Play. And now I understand this, it's huge amphitheater.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering what kind of ambiance that's going to be in comparison. But no, our travel agent said it's going to be again in 21, and then it got pushed back to 22.
22.
And that's what we're going. We just kept with it. It's too bad you didn't keep with it. Yeah. Yeah, Prague is beautiful. We've been to all those places. And
Also Salzburg. I mean, that's beautiful too.
Salzburg's where
Very
we used
beautiful.
to take everybody. When people came to visit, we took them to Salzburg and Berchtesgaden. And yeah, that's my old stomping ground. That's great.
I will
I
have
wanted
to
to just,
sometime since I lived there for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
I have a memory. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, I have a memory. My husband and I were in Vienna for 1986 and 87. And when we were there, Amadeus was at the
Yes.
at the cinema. It was all in German, of course. And the interesting thing was when we went back for a while to the States, that hideous laugh was not in Vienna. They had, obviously, they thought it was better in America, but it was awful. And the other thing that I remember is that it was shot in Vienna, but it was in Prague.
But what, I'm sorry, shot in Vienna, but what?
They wanted Prague. I think it's probably cheaper than in Vienna. So what you saw was not actually Vienna.
It was Prague.
In Prague.
Right. And the second thing what happened was when we were there, and we actually didn't know about it at all. We were going down to the tram, and all of a sudden, the Great Opera House has Czech words on them. The tram had Czech words on that, on everything, and they said they were actually filming that time. And it was one of the James Bond films. And again, it was supposed to be Prague, but no, apparently at that point, I guess it wasn't good enough for Vienna. So I have no idea, but it was really such a little switch. And I imagine it was probably about money. Anyways, that's one of my favorite things there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to note about the markets. My friend in Kronberg that I mentioned, one period in her life, she was going through a very hard time, and she's originally from Germany. So she said, well, declared to herself, she was not going to be in Germany for the Christmas season because of all the wonderful things that you can see in Germany and the markets and so forth. So she abruptly booked a trip out of the country and went to a spa, I think in the Far East, I think in Vietnam, actually, which she has gone to after that for some time, for every year for a while. But anyway, that was kind of just a comment on all the wonderful markets and everything, all the wonderful things you can see during the Christmas season in Germany.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for your stories. It has been wonderful again, visiting with all of my friends and friends to be. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your love of travel with us. It's really fun putting these programs together. You've been an amazing audience. And I love the interactive portions where I get to hear your stories. So thank you. And I guess it's time to wrap up. So
Well,
I'm going to.
it was a lovely presentation, Eileen. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Everyone, yes.
We have one more.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Bye.
Eileen has something else she wants to say.
Yes, I want to hear everybody one more time.
Oh,
Oh,
Three.
I'm muting.
Drei.
Monica, Weihnachten.
Early Weihnachten.
See you next year.
Eileen.
All right.
Thank you.
okay.
Next year.
Wonderful.
Right.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Hope it's a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
So I didn't realize that about Oberammergau.
What?
That, I mean, that had been postponed. I mean, when you think about it.